All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to my fourth stream of Archaeologist Plays Pharaoh, the 1999/2000 impression game, city building game where we build cities in ancient Egypt. And what I bring to this is that I'm an archaeologist, and so while we play, I talk about the real life and sites and civilizations and everything that inspire the different levels and things that we encounter in the game as we go along. So I usually wait a few minutes just at the start here just to give people a chance to join. And yeah, welcome. I also have a comment here from Joaquim. He's been on a few streams so far. Hey Joaquim, hope you're doing okay. Bit worried about Kaylee. Last post video was 2 weeks ago. Hope she's alright. Have you heard anything? So he's talking about history with Kaylee. She's another much bigger YouTuber than I, and we are friends offline. We met through YouTube. She reached out to me a while back. I have not spoken to Kaylee, I would say like within the past week, but she hasn't contacted me otherwise, so I can't really comment, not to mention that, you know, her personal life is personal. Hope she's okay. If I do hear from her and I have her permission to say so, I can update you. But yeah, I don't want to infringe on her personal life too much. Right. So, yes, just to kind of start off, our our last stream that we did on this game was the level called Timna, which was based in the Sinai Desert in 2850 BCE, so roughly 4,800 years ago. So I haven't been, now that we're getting into some longer plays that take a little bit more time in building the levels, I've not been playing through the complete levels while I've been doing the streams. So offline, I've gone and I've basically played the game, that level up until I'm about to finish it. And so today, we're gonna just kind of start at the very end of that level, because then I'm going to give you guys the option to pick which level we do next, because once we progress, we now have a choice between two different missions. So I'm going to let you guys decide what we're going to play today. I have prepped for both levels, and there is some stuff as well that kind of goes across both of them. So yeah, should be fun. Welcome if you've not been here before. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like these, and so you get notified when I'm putting out this and new videos every 2 weeks. I am starting to do these streams kind of before the premieres of my videos on my YouTube channel. Today, the video that I'm putting out is a further exploration into the story of the thefts of artifacts from the British Museum that had been happening for years, but the public only found about in 2023. And also it's been alleged that these may have been done by a staff member who was recently fired from the museum. And it was all over the news when this all came out. I found it really interesting, and so I wanted to kind of do a video talking about what the actual facts were in terms of what we know, what's been released by the British Museum, what's been said by the people involved or the people not involved, and also kind of like from my perspective as a heritage professional, someone who knows people who works in museums and works in the wider heritage sector, kind of what are my thoughts on the whole thing. So that's going to premiere after the end of this stream, and I hope that you enjoy it. So, just a quick refresh before I jump into the actual game. We're going to be skipping forward a few hundred years in time, but we're still going to be in the early dynastic period. So, also, Joachim, since you're on the stream, you asked me a few times about schools and where people go to learn and stuff like that in ancient Egypt. And I couldn't answer it for you definitively the other time, so I did go away and I researched it, so I have an answer. So, schools did happen, but widespread education like what we have today was not a thing. Generally, also hieroglyphs, much harder alphabet to learn than the English alphabet. I think there's roughly like 700 hieroglyphics that you would have had to learn, in contrast to our 27 letters for English language, or sorry, English alphabet. In general, schools were attached to religious temples or government buildings. They weren't like independent institutions like they are today. And it was kind of, but it was largely looked and run after by like state and religion. So teachers tended to be priests or scribes. Younger boys were sent to school around 7 or 8 years old. Again, these wouldn't have been like lower class children. These probably would have been mid to high class children, especially considering that in Egypt, a lot of the time, like jobs were hereditary. So if your father was a scribe, you went to school to train to become a scribe, and then you kind of, and then in some of the sources I read, they talked about once you graduated, you then got your father's job and your father effectively retired. So I don't think there was a lot of changing between these kinds of things. Not to say that never happened, it certainly did, but that was kind of the norm for people. Boys largely were the ones that went to school. Girls would have been educated at home in more domestic stuff. But that's not to say that women didn't learn to read or write, or they didn't go to school. Certainly higher class women would have been educated, especially if they were perhaps going to be a priestess, or royal women were educated sometimes as well. There were different types of schools for different people. So you would have like a village school that would do general education, probably attached to the local temple. And then you would have a more specialized school, higher education, I guess, for people who are going to become priests or scribes. And then there was also the highest end school, which was called the prince's school. And that was for that was attended by the sons of the ruling family, as well as nobles and court officials. So, you know, that was like the big league school that you wanted your kid to get into. Yes, I couldn't find any. I found lots of pictures of like description or like paintings and stuff like that of what school classrooms looked like, but I couldn't actually. I had a really difficult time trying to find a specific example of like an excavated school. I'm presuming there's probably quite a few attached to some of the excavated temples that we have. I imagine there's probably one at Karnak, but looking through what I could find on the internet, I just could not find exactly where in the temple complex they were. Other question before we get started was about sitting planning. Someone asked me this in a previous stream about, are we going to play it and lay out the cities like they were in antiquity? No, I can't do that for two different reasons. One, I don't have access to the city plans for these sites, even if they have been fully excavated. Not even all of the sites that we played in the game have actually been found. One of them, Thenis, I think that was the level. We actually don't know exactly where that is. We've not excavated it yet. And a lot of the time when we do excavate cities as archaeologists, we pinpoint different parts of it that we're going to excavate. We don't do the whole thing. So we don't, a lot of the time, know the exact layout of a city. Secondly, not going to work because that's just not how the game operates. In order to succeed and win at the levels, you have to set things up in a very specific way, which does not match up to how we actually have cities in real life. So anyway, let's stop talking, and I'm going to load my save game from Timna. So this is the end of the level. I should be just about to win, because I think I have to have a population of 2,000. So let's just speed this up a little bit. He wants 15 weapons. Well, he's not going to get them because I'm about to finish. Blah, blah, blah. Proceed. Excellent.
Pharaoh applauds you.
Yes, I know.
Through your skilled management, you have
such a good
successfully
job. I
defended
am such a
your
good
city
manager.
from Bedouin attack and provided
So,
Egypt with the means of defending
the close of the
itself.
Archaic period. We now have a choice between two levels. Abedju, also known as Abydos, the necropolis. This is more of going to be a like peaceful, monument-focused level, and then we have Bedet, also known as Apollonopolis. I think I just said that right. More of a military-focused game, so there's going to be battles via warships in this. So we're going to do a poll, and should we play? Should I? Sorry. So you're going to choose between Bedet and Abydos. Vote. I know Joaquin was saying the way that the developers intended, but obviously you get a choice here. It doesn't matter which one you do or don't do. Because I can only probably do like one level per stream at this point because of the size of levels is getting bigger, we'll play whatever you guys choose today, and then next stream we'll play the other ones. That doesn't mean that we're not going to play not one if we play the other. It's just more of which one are we going to play first. Welcome, Lair. I don't know if I'm saying that. Hello, I can finally catch a live stream if I'm watching this later as always. Welcome, so happy to have you. It's great. Please cast your vote. I'm going to just give it a few minutes and then we shall see where we end up. Current winner is Abydos. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Egypt was in many ways more equal than today. Joaquin, I guess that depends on what you mean by equal. I would say it was more equal than other periods in history. I would not say that it is more equal than how we live in modern day, because nowadays we do have social mobility, so you don't have to inherit your parents' job. Egyptians did have slaves. We don't officially have those anymore in modern day society, although I'm sure there are arguments that can be made for different parts of the world that still effectively practice slavery. But at least in the UK, where I live, and largely in the West, we don't do that anymore. We also have more actual equal rights. Women aren't just expected to stay at home, and it's not that they had to stay at home in Egypt, and obviously throughout antiquity, even outside of Egypt, women did have jobs, but also more equality for just across the board for more things. But I would say that if you were looking at ancient Egypt in terms of scales of equality in comparison to other like contemporary civilizations like Greece, Rome, Mesopotamia, Egypt's pretty high on the list of being being a fairly equal society. We also have to remember as well that obviously they weren't democratic. They were ruled by a person who thought that they were a god, and they were the head of the state and basically the head of religion in many ways for the vast majority of their history. So, yes. I remember Bedet as a bit of a hellish mission. I can't, my memories of playing Bedet when I was younger are not the best. And also I have heard people talk about the military part of this game as not being very enjoyable, and that also tracks with my memory of it. So I'm not biased either way. I will play whatever you guys choose. But yes, one mission is presumably a little bit harder than the other, depending on how good you are at playing these kinds of video games. Right, well, we've had the poll up. It's 50-50. Guys, somebody has to cast the deciding vote here. There's 4. We need a 5th person. We need a 5th person to vote if you're on the stream. It looks like right now there's only a few. Let's see. Concurrent viewers. Well, if we've only got 4 votes, I'll just make the call. We're going to play Abydos. That's how I say it. It's probably not even the proper Greek pronunciation. I'm going to end the poll. That's my pick. We're sticking with it.
Abedju, the burial place of our forefathers, has grown over the years into a sprawling necropolis of sacred tombs. Now, most noble men and women wish to make this their eternal resting place. To honor them, the new Pharaoh Khasekhemouy of the Second Dynasty has ordered the construction of 3 sacred mastaba tombs, one of greater size than the other 2, for the local nobility. Pharaoh has also ordered the creation of a powerful navy based at Vedet. Abedju, too, must support a modest fleet of combat ships if our shores are to remain totally secure. This will not be easy, as timber is scarce and our climate supports only a few sparse areas of forest. Cedar may be imported at great cost from Byblos in the land of Lebanon to the northeast. Fortunately, exports of our native papyrus will provide a means of offsetting this expense.
Sounds good. Right, so what are our new technologies for today? Trade on water, gotta have a dock. Fishing! Love that. Building boats and ships. I have a whole section on this that I've researched for you guys. We have new buildings, and we have a new thing that we're making, bricks for our mastaba. Or actually, did we do a mastaba in the past level? I don't know. These are all starting to blend together, so right. I've slowed down the speed in the game. So as we can see, we have quite a few new things. So we have our shipwright, we've got our construction guild. Let's see, temple. Oh, Osiris is our only god. Great, that makes my life easy. And some mastabas, but largely things are the same. We also now have on our military tab, we can have a recruiter. We can have our infantry or archers if we want them. And we have a warship option for warship and transport wharfs. Joachim. Fair enough, Joachim. That's fine. I don't judge you for that, but I realize that's probably what you meant. So yeah, warship wharfs. These are ships that would go off and just do things. And then we have do war, I guess. Transport wharfs. These are for transporting your ships. So in later missions, you get requests for your soldiers to go fight for Egypt, and you can load your forts into these boats and then send them off to do things. So I'm just going to get started building my base level here. Let's also just have a look around the map. So we have some reeds here. We have more reeds over here and some farmland. Can't get access to that, so it's useless. We don't have any quarries. We don't really have a lot of farmland here. We've got lots of nice straight bits, which I'm presuming is for these boat buildings that we're talking about. And then we have the road. So that the road over here means that all of my immigrants or my people are going to come from over here. So I'm going to start over here because there's not a lot of reeds here. So I'm eventually going to have to go and exploit this resource, and also the farming is just going to be better. And we've got some straight bits here. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to just put in some infrastructure so I can get some farms going right off the bat. Some people here. Shrine so I don't make the gods angry thinking I've ignored them. Do a work. Well, I don't need a work camp yet. This is something I always do. I get over ambitious with the amount of stuff that I want to set up, and then it bites me in the butt later. So, let's see. I'm gonna have a road here. I'm gonna have a road here. Make sure I have enough space for everybody. Let's make okay. So we're going to 12. Yeah, that's fine. Dun, dun. Just gonna have a roadblock here and a roadblock here. All right, let's set up some industry across here. So, roadblock here and here. Probably here. All right. So what else do I need? I need a shipwright. Oh, and I've screwed up this road. Fun. So I need a shipwright to make my ships, and then I'm going to have some fishing over here. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I've done a very good job of this. Oh well. And then I'll have my dock here. Right. I'm going to just erase these roads that I've done a really garbage job of setting up. Take that away. Works. Alright. Firehouse. Architect's post. Alright. I'm going to finish setting up my basics and let things start populating, and then I'm going to just start talking and I'll have a look at the chat. Do we know much about this period? So we're still in the early dynastic or archaic period, so it is one of the lesser known periods because it is like the farther back in time. But we do know some stuff. So I'm gonna start talking first about Pharaoh Khasekhemwy. I don't know. Khasekhemwy is how I say it in my head. The guy who's mentioned in our mission briefing. He's the last king of the second dynasty. His Horus name, Khasekhemwy, means the two powerful ones appear. He ruled for around 18 years. We don't know exactly how long, but that's roughly it. But it's around this date, 2685, 2690-ish. We have jumped forward about 200 years, 165 years, so we've skipped a lot of people, to the end of this dynasty, which is basically the end of this period. The start of the third dynasty is like the start of the Old Kingdom, generally. There are some theories that between our last few missions and now, there was a time of kind of unrest and civil conflict So maybe civil wars, or, you know, we talked about how, you know, Egypt was unified, but that doesn't mean that it was, you know, they conquered it and that's how it was. It does seem to have kind of gone a bit back and forth. Oh, I hate when this happens. My things are burning down. That's not very nice. Alright, I need to have better access to my things. Yes, I know. And my firemen are just absolutely useless. Come on, buddy. Put out my fire. There we go. Okay, now I have to put my ferry landing back. And my shipwright. Who apparently... But I have it. Ferry landing. It's here. Fine. I'll put a second one there. And then we can go this way. Good enough for me. Right. So, alright, so we have this. Alright, let's do some healthcare. As you know, people gotta survive in order to do all the things that I want to do. I'll have my physician as well, because otherwise people are just gonna start dropping dead left, right, and center. I hate when that happens. So, what do I need? I need some papyrus. So, what's the best way of doing this? Do that. That works for me. I have a firehouse here. Architect's post here. Gather some reeds, guys. And then we'll have a papyrus maker here, and I'll put a nice storage yard here so that I can get some papyrus and then I can start trading it. Alright, so these guys, I can see they don't have the flag, so they're having a hard time finding workers, which is kind of annoying. So I'll move my road. Actually, no. To make my road go this way. Learned that this is the way you have to give them right next to it. Drives me crazy. Anyway, so as I was saying, they think in this period that possibly there was some what's the word that I'm looking for here? That there was some fragmentation still. And so they think that Khasekhemwy might have ended some of this infighting, which is why in his name he actually has both, he has mentions of both Horus and Set. Yes. Which is something that is unique to him. It's unique to his Serach, his kind of regnal name. So some people think that this is because he was trying to unify and placate other factions, but after he dies, we stop seeing these references to Set in the Serach names. This king undertook some pretty substantial building projects, maybe again to kind of reinforce this idea of a unified Egypt after he kind of got everyone back together. So he's built in stone at several different sites. His tomb is at Abedju, this level that we're playing, also known as Abydos. It's the last royal tomb built in this necropolis. It's 70 meters long, 17 meters wide at one end, and then 10 meters wide at the other end, and consisted of around 58 rooms. In it, they found a scepter and small stone pots with gold leaf coverings. So that's actually the image that you see on the screen now is one of these limestone finds that they found from his tomb. The other photo that we kind of opened up with, that's Khasekhemwy. Khasekhemwy. I'm not going to try and say that right because I'm just not going to get it right. Yeah, that's a statue of him that we have. His tomb was robbed, but apparently this stuff was missed. Other finds from his tomb include flint tools, copper tools, vessels, stone and pottery vessels that were filled with grain and fruit, glazed objects, carnelian beads, baskets, and seals. His wife was someone named someone named Nimaat-Top. Again, please don't count on my pronunciation, guys. I did not actually study the ancient Egyptian language. But his wife is thought to be, again, a northern princess. This is a theme that we saw in some of the earlier Wives of the Kings, is this idea that, so we have Upper Egypt, which is the southern bit, and then we have Lower Egypt, which is the northern bit near the delta. And, ooh, actually, I need to put some farms in. And there's this theme where the kings of Upper Egypt probably conquered Lower Egypt, and then we see this thing where it seems like the women, or the royal women of these dynasties from Lower Egypt, were then kind of assimilated and married into the dynasty to kind of help provide legitimacy to the new dynasty. So I'm going to put some breweries in so that we can have some beer, because everybody likes beer. As we discussed in the last stream, beer was one of the forms of payment for like wages. They had a barter economy. It was not a cash or currency-based economy for the vast majority of their history. So beer was very important to them. Right. One of the new features that we have in this level is boats. Boats. Oh, I wonder if I'm showing my age with that reference. Obviously, boats were pretty key part of life in ancient Egypt, especially as they help you traverse both sides of the Nile. You know, we have things happening on both sides. The first boats were similar to what these ships are that you're seeing that are doing the fishing. They're made out of reeds. And then you have later wood coming from Byblos and Lebanon, which was again mentioned in the mission briefing here. So the majority of boats for everyday life, transport, communication, etc., would have been made out of reeds. And then you later have these wooden boats that would have been made for more important uses like ritual barges or warships. We don't have ritual barges in the game, unfortunately. Alright, so I have quite a bit of papyrus, so I think I can start selling that, and that will make people happy. Alright, let's see. So, Abedju, here, as we can see where we are on the map, the capital, Mennefer, is a bit to the north. Timna, this is our last mission that we played out in the Sinai. Let's see. These guys buy some stuff. So what we need is clay and straw in order to build bricks for our mastabas, or bricks, but bricks are more expensive, so it's easier if I can import these two and then do this. But I'm not quite ready to make bricks yet. I want to start making money first. So Mennefer buys not papyrus, but they do buy beer. That's good. Timna buys papyrus. Bedet. Alright, so I guess I gotta go with Timna first. Start selling some papyrus to them. It's exportable. I'll do it over 400 because as soon as I start exporting this stuff, somebody comes in and is like, oh, I need this for the kingdom. We'll do the same with beer, but we'll have a slightly lower level for that. Had they started mummification in this time period? Sort of yes and no. So like the process of mummification was something that was developed over a very long time. So when we think of it, again, same with the use of the word pharaoh, that is something that's actually much later in their history. Ooh, actually, I need to accept flax here. One sec. This is how I'm going to make linen. So yeah, so it doesn't tend to just let me put some levers in. And actually, I'm just going to put a storage here too as well. So we think that they kind of figured out that desert conditions are ideal for preserving bodies. So a lot of these earlier royal tombs and nobles and things like that, they have these what am I saying? They have preserved bodies, but they're not preserved in the way that we tend to think of mummification, because they're naturally preserved by the dry conditions of the desert. But then we see them starting to experiment with better ways of preserving it, because the desert only takes you so far. And so then we have the introduction of wrappings and natron salt and the process of extra drying out bodies before they got wrapped and everything. So yeah, let me just see. I'm just going to take a brief pause. I also said, I think in a different video on my YouTube channel, that mummy is actually a word that we're starting to move away from using. We tend to try and say the remains of this individual or of that person if we actually know their name, because the name is actually a bit of a, not a slur, but it is an Arabic word, mumia, which refers to bitumen, and which is like a embalming substance, and they used it to mean preservation. So let me just see Egyptian. An Egyptian religion. Blah blah blah. So we start seeing mummification as an integral part of rituals around the Second Dynasty. So yeah, around this period, but obviously this would have come after they discovered how it happened naturally, I guess. Yeah. Going back to boats, and the game, so that we can progress. I'm just going to start setting up my monument area. So, oh, these guys want, see, I told you, as soon as I start producing stuff, people start asking for things. It's just so rude. So we've got one mastaba here, and then we'll have another one here, and the game doesn't let you decide where to put these things. So I'm just going to put the third one. You can't rotate them. Sorry, that's what I meant. I'm going to put the third one here. And then this is going to be my brick area. We'll also put in a festival square here, because who doesn't love a good festival? In ancient Egypt, certainly they loved to party. Well, actually, also do my palace. So I'm gonna put a nice palace here. Roadblock. Actually, no, that was a bad idea. Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. Okay. I need to go by people. Roadblock there. And can't fit there. Made a mistake. Yes, I want to demolish it. I haven't done anything with it. It's fine. Medium. I'll just put it slightly farther away. Small mastodon. Okay. Palace. Put that there, and then we can have our firehouse and our architect's post. Do that. I can't sell any beer because somebody's asked me for it. Fine. Yeah. Right, okay. Whoop. Didn't mean to do that. Oopsies. We'll have a party to Osiris. Common Festival. Right, now that I have my palace, I'm going to put in my tax collector when I can make a bit more money. And I also have to improve my people's living conditions because then I'll get more housing. Put this over here. So we're going to use this as my proto entertainment district. Roadblock. Here. Here. Then I'll just put that there to make it a little bit easier. Juggler school, because who loves to juggle? Conservatory. Firehouse. And architect's post. Ooh, okay. I'm going to put in a booth here and want to do my pavilion here. Oh, I've got 1 month left. Oh no. I'm probably going to make those people unhappy. Oh, Osiris is good. That's fine. I want to put my pavilion in here, but I think I need to rejig my housing to fit it where I want. Pavilion, yeah. Let's just slow this down. So that I can okay. Do a roadblock there. And I'm going to just works for me. Right. How much housing do I have? 36. How many people do I need? 37. Oops. I need 2 more houses there. That'll help me out, right? Yeah. Okay. So, let's get this taken over. Statue to Sekhmet to make everybody happy. It's my favorite goddess. Matuo has a question. General archaeology question. In Egypt, they have these amazing teams of trained individuals who do a lot of the excavation work. Are there teams of individuals like that anywhere else in the world? Matt, to answer your question, you have to be a bit more specific. Do you mean like general laborers? Because, yes, in Egypt, and not even just in Egypt, in Jordan, basically, well, I'll tell you of how we did it in Jordan, which is where I did my field work when I was a baby archaeologist. We hired local Bedouin who had a camp near to our site, and they did the physical part of our work, doing a lot of the taking, well, I say physical, we did the actual like digging bit a lot of the time with like pickaxes and like hoes, and then we would put the dirt into buckets and they would empty the buckets and sift through them sometimes to see if there was anything there. And I think they do a lot of that, and they end up doing a lot of the physical labor in Egypt. So they do that, like I said, in Jordan, but in places in the West, generally, no, the trained people doing all of the digging are the people who are the archaeologists. So like myself, when I worked on sites in the UK, I was doing all of the digging of my assigned parts of the site. No one else was, students and volunteers. Student and volunteers are on academic digs. So these are digs that are being done for the purpose of research, and run by a university professor, and a lot of the times also used to help train people in archaeological methods who are going to then go on to be an archaeologist. In the private archaeology world, which is what I used to work in, or the professional archaeology world, we had, we did all of our work. General construction workers, which are probably like the closest equivalent, weren't doing archaeological work. We do sometimes have machine excavators who were people that weren't trained archaeologists, but they do that were digging bits of ground out, but they were doing that at our direction. I have driven one of those for work before. I got trained to do it as a part of my job once. I don't have a license that I could then like apply to other things, but yeah, I was able to do it then, and yeah, it's a lot harder than you think. That is definitely something that you have to learn to do. Yes, I'm going to start off with, I'm going to start importing clay so that I can have pottery, because that will help me, again, evolve my household so that I can have more of my population. Clay, we're just going to accept half there. Right. Joaquim asked if I've done any archaeology in Egypt. No, I have not dug in Egypt. I would love to, but generally they like, everyone wants to dig there, and if you are going to be going there, you're going to be part of it, usually an academic dig, or at a lot of the time they want you to be studying Egypt, someone who's studying Egyptology. So I studied Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome, and then I studied skeletal material for my master's, and I didn't specialize in Egyptology. So I've not had an opportunity to go on a dig in Egypt. I would love to. That would probably be like a life and or career goal for me, but the stars have not aligned yet. I do have friends that go and dig in Egypt. One of my friends, she works for the Egypt Exploration Society in London, and she very regularly goes on field work in Egypt, and I am very jealous. Matt says, why are people sick? That's dumb. Laborers in Egypt have a lot of training, but doing it years as a family business or career, while in the US, UK, it seems not to be the case. No, but I think that also has something to do with, well, just the culture of how they do it over there, but also like the pay scales and whatnot, and the differences in average wages for places. In the UK, the closest construction laborer is working on a construction project and ends up probably getting paid a lot more than an archaeologist does, and it's just not as integrated into us because we've not been. I mean, Egypt is like the mecca of archaeology, so yeah, we don't have the same kind of culture around being involved on archaeological projects here as in Egypt. That being said, I think there is a company in Lincolnshire in the UK that specializes in doing in having like digger excavator drivers for archaeology projects. So like their excavator drivers have worked on lots of archaeological projects and they know a bit more about how to do it because it is different than your average job that you're digging up like a foundation with a JCB. I suppose literally everyone who studied a little archaeology had their Egypt face, probably. I mean, it is one of the most widespread representations of ancient civilizations that we see. You know, people love it in movies. When you think of archaeology, a lot of the time, that is what you're thinking of. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Still don't have any unemployment. Oh, not good. Right, so let's talk a little bit about Abedju, as they call it in the game. Kyriakos, drive it from your knowledge, greetings. From Greece. Oh! Visit Greece soon. It has many archaeological places. I have been to a Greek island. I have been to, well, I guess 2 Greek islands. I've been to the Greek side of Cyprus, and I think I've been, is it Kos? Is that where I went to? No. Well, I have been to Kos because I went to Bodrum and I went to Kos for a day. But the island I'm thinking of, Kefalonia. I have been on holiday in Kefalonia. I have been to Kos, and I have been to the Greek side of Cyprus. I would love to go to Athens. 100%. I want to do that as like a trip one day. I've not had the chance yet. Right, okay, I'm starting to get bricks, so I would like to, I'm gonna have my brick warehouses here. Firehouse, architect's post. I want to have a work camp, and then eventually I'll have bricklayers.
These baskets are too heavy for a little kid like me.
Emptiness. Yes, I would love to go to Athens. I would also love to go to Mycenae. I did a paper on the grave circles at Mycenae when I did my undergrad, and ever since then I've always wanted to go. I've just, yeah, again, not had the chance yet. All of Greece, really. I mean, I want to go everywhere that has archaeological sites in the world, to be perfectly honest. I love it. I drag my very tolerant husband to every museum of everywhere that we go. We actually have a trip planned to go to Berlin soon, and I'm very much looking forward to that, and going to the Pergamum and the Altes and the Neue and the Altes museums in Berlin. That's going to be a really good time. Sorry, I got sidetracked. What is Joachim? If you're asking me what my field of expertise is, I studied, like I said, I studied Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome, and just general archaeology for my undergraduate degree. So I have quite a broad understanding of a lot of those civilizations and the archaeology associated with them, as well as I took some classes in the Byzantine period, Russian history, a little bit of medieval history as well, and then I have a master's degree in human osteoarchaeology. So that's the study of human skeletons in archaeological contexts. So when you find a skeleton, that's kind of what I specialize in looking at. Being able to see if it's a male or female skeleton or whatever. Yeah, if I had to, I am not interested in doing a PhD. If I did do a PhD, it probably would end up being in Egyptology, but if that's what I would probably have to go back and get a master's in Egyptology before I could get a PhD in it, especially since I haven't worked in Egyptology at all. Yeah, so Abedju, I'm just going to call it that, also known as Abydos, Abydos. It's one of the oldest cities in ancient Egypt. It was the capital of the 8th nome, which is kind of, a nome is like an Egyptian province in Upper Egypt. The Greek name is Abydos. The Egyptians called it Abedju. It is a really important archaeological site, as it was basically the cult center for Osiris or Osiris. I don't know how people want to say it, but it essentially became the cult center of our main deity in this level. It's not had a festival in a while, so let's do that. Keep them happy. Yes. This city was also the site, as I was saying, of a lot of ancient temples, but also the royal necropolis for the early dynastic or archaic period. And a lot of the earliest pharaohs or kings are buried here. And as a consequence of this, they then get seen as this area gets, very heavily religiously associated with this time, and so people wanted to be buried here, which led to its growth and importance as a cult site. So in terms of the tombs of kings or important historical figures who have been found here, Narmer is buried here. He was the king that's often accredited with unifying Egypt in the early. He's like the first king of the first dynasty, basically. Yes. As I said, very early on, it was a cult center. At first, it was associated with a local deity who's called Khsekhkhamwy, whose name means foremost of the Westerners. And he was, again, a funerary deity who was then associated with and eventually merged with Osiris to become the overall god of the dead. And so in this period that we're playing right now, we see a tradition develop that this place was the burial spot of Osiris. And the tomb of an earlier king called Jer was then reinterpreted as being the tomb of Osiris. And it kind of became a bit of a mecca of Egypt. That's kind of the closest thing I can think of as an equivalent in modern day, where people would take pilgrimages here, especially during the great festival of Osiris, and participate in the cultic activities of this place. So Yeah. Mostly what remains of Abydos nowadays is... oh, sorry. I'm being distracted. I need some bricklayers. So... I'm also just going to put in some more homes. Because I actually think I need to also expand my population because I don't have enough. Anyway, so what remains of this place archaeologically? We do have parts of the town, but really, if you were to visit there today, the major things that are here are temples. So there's well, temples and tombs, the necropolis and the temples. So you have the Great Osiris Temple, which dates from the 1st to the 26th dynasty. You have a succession of temples being built on this site. It became known as the Great Osiris Temple, which is not to be confused with a similarly named temple called Taposiris Magna Temple, which is outside of Alexandria. It's actually a Hellenistic temple, and I mention this because we had a brief discussion about this in one of my other streams. There is an Egyptologist who is trying to find the tomb of Cleopatra, and Taposiris Magna is where she thinks Cleopatra might be buried, and she's been excavating that there for years to try and find the body of Cleopatra. So if that name rings a bell, that's why. In terms of the Great Temple, nowadays what remains of it, we have the, not much. There is a wall, which was for an enclosure, and, but a lot of what remains are doorways that were constructed of stone, because the rest of it seems to have been made of mud brick, so most of it's been lost. In terms of what kind of stuff we celebrated here, this Festival of Osiris that I mentioned, it's a great mystery festival, and it would happen every year. It was celebrated in kind of 2 phases. So you start, everyone would come to Abydos, and you would commemorate the death of Osiris. And does everybody know, is that the woman who recently found a long tunnel that she thought might be related to Cleopatra? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I haven't read her research in depth, and I'm not an expert on Cleopatra, so I can't say, like, or give a real expert opinion on how likely it is that that is what she's found. I will say that she comes into the news, like, very frequently saying, I found a new discovery that might lead me to Cleopatra. But in the several news things that I've seen her release, she's never actually found Cleopatra. So, yeah, I don't know how much longer, well, I presume she's just going to keep looking until she finds her, but yeah. Oh, I can export some linen. Free up some space in my storage warehouse. Also, I don't need enough flax, so I'm going to stop accepting this. And I'm just going to start importing bricks because I need them. It's a ridiculous level of bricks. I'm gonna keep it to, yeah, 800 for now, and then if I go broke, I can change. Yes, so Mystery Festival to Osiris. Let me know in the chat. I'll give you a few seconds to answer while I do some stuff. If you know the story of Osiris, the king, the Egyptian god. If you know his, like, kind of general background and story. And if, probably even if one of you doesn't know it, I will tell you guys the story in a few minutes. All right, let me know in the chat. Osiris is unhappy. We're gonna do a festival. I started exporting beer again? No, okay. Alright, guys. I think I need more workers, so we're gonna have a secondary, like, satellite settlement here. I'm gonna do ferry crossing, because this will also, I think, end up being my where I have warships when I actually have time for them. It's going to take a few minutes to build this settlement, and then I'll get back to the chat and answering questions. I'm going to end up with like huge amounts of unemployment because of this probably, but who cares? Always put the water supply in the wrong spot. I'm just making mistakes left, right, and center. No people. We'll get there eventually. Right. Alright. 2 people. Joachim and Matt. Don't know the story of Osiris. Buckle yourselves up for a rip-roaring good time. So, the story of Osiris in Egyptian lore is that Osiris is one of their, not first gods, but he's an early god, and he's a king of Egypt. And he has a brother named Set, who isn't his biggest fan. He's jealous, he's the god of warfare, and I think the desert, could we double check that one? So Set ends up killing Osiris, to take over the kingdom. And not only that, he tries to ensure that Set can never be resurrected or come back. This theme of resurrection is big in their life. So he cuts up his body and spreads it to all the different corners of Egypt. Osiris's wife, I think you actually are supposed to say her name is Isis, but I have said Isis my whole life, so I'm just going to stick with that. His wife then goes around the country and gets together the pieces of Osiris's body and starts stitching them together and keeping them together via mummification. And once she's kind of got either enough pieces or the correct piece, she does a fancy magic ritual and impregnates herself. I'll leave it up to you to imagine how she does that. And gives birth to a son named Horus, who then grows up and avenges his father on his uncle. And in the fight that happens, one of his eyes is taken out. And so in his like duel with Set, but he wins, and then he becomes like he gets revenge for his father, but his father is dead. He cannot be alive again. So then Osiris goes on to become the king of the underworld, the mummified king. So that's why when we see pictures of Osiris, his skin is colored green or blue to symbolize death, but he's also associated a lot with fertility and resurrection, this idea of resurrection. So his actual name is not Osiris. That is, again, a Greekified or Hellenized way of saying his name. The hieroglyphs for his name are like WSJR, no vowels in that. So we not quite sure how they would have said his name, but some suggestions are Asar, Ausar, Ausir, Wazir, Usir, or Usiri, something like that. But yeah, until we manage to actually resurrect an ancient Egyptian, we cannot know. So he is the god of fertility, agriculture, as we see in this game. In this game, how they represent Osiris is he affects the flood. So if he's happy with you, you get lots of good floods and lots of good farming. And if he's not, then he, floods your farms, or he makes it so that the flood doesn't come, which is just not very nice, but, yes. As I said, he's pretty distinctive when you see him in Egyptian artwork, because he's depicted like all in white, or like at least partially mummified. Like I said, he's got this green or blue skin, and then he's wearing something called the Atef crown, which looks like very similar to one of the two crowns of the kingdoms of Egypt. And he's got the two ostrich feathers on the side, and then he's got a crook and flail. Again, the crook and flail are two of the symbols of kingship. They're like the scepter and the orb that the king or queen of the UK holds now when they get crowned and stuff. He was worshipped very broadly throughout the history of ancient Egypt up until Christianity became the dominant religion during the Roman Empire. But I would say he was one of the major deities in more like the Old and Middle Kingdom, probably. And then his popularity waxes and wanes. He's always like one of the top ones, but he's not always like the top god, if that makes sense. Can you touch a little bit on how we know this story and lore from temple walls? Oh, this story is repeated all over the place. So yeah, there would be, we have records of Osiris's story from lots of different sources. I wouldn't know them off the top of my head, but I do know it is probably one of the most prevalent ancient Egyptian myths or like stories that you hear. It is one of like the first things that I remember reading about, is this, because it's also very similar to a biblical story of Abel and Cain, the two brothers fighting, and one kills the other. Oh, apparently my wages are low. Oops. Oh, okay, I gotta up wages so that people are happier with me. Alright, how are these people doing over here? Oh, they're all leaving. Whoops. I took my eye off the ball because I was too busy telling the story of Osiris. Sorry. Alright, let's do some work camps, and I'm gonna do another bricklayer guild as well. I might even do a brickwork or two, and we'll have you accept straw and clay, and then I'm gonna go and I'm going to import some straw, because you need straw in order to make bricks. So I can import bricks, as I've been doing, but I can also make bricks from scratch. It's just I don't have the clay as a raw material in this level, so I've been using it to make pottery instead, which is what I need to upgrade some of my housing. Oh my gosh. And my flax is getting out of control. Too much linen. I binged this game last year after you mentioned it. Oh, that's so nice. I'm glad that I could help recommend it for people. So great. Got a brickworks going. This is all happy. I took my eye off the ball. Oh well. Let's see if this gets any better. Do I know if the story ever changes a little bit over time? Oh yeah, the story definitely will have variations throughout history, because this was a story that would have been told for thousands of years, and so it would have slightly changed, and I'm sure the details of it aren't always exactly the same, but the general story itself does stay the same. And I think a lot of the time what would have probably happened later is more of an integration of other more like newer gods. So probably like Amun in the New Kingdom was probably more incorporated into the myth, but I am speculating. I do not know that for sure, because it's not my area of expertise. But yes, the story would have varied, but the broad bones of it would have stayed the same. Isis. Yeah, so Isis's name is written in Egyptian as basically like an ST. so we don't know how they would have said it, and how I'm saying it is again the Greekified version. So yes, it could have been Aset, it could have been Isa, I don't know, Issei. I don't know how, or Wusa is one of the suggestions. So yeah, we just don't know exactly how they would have pronounced it. Oh, this is something that I thought was really interesting to talk about, is one of the key things that we found in Abydos. One of the most notable things that you would see at Abydos if you visited today is the memorial temple of Seti I, which is from the 19th dynasty of the New Kingdom. So many years after we play this level. It's famous because it contains an inscription known as the Abydos King List. So this is where we actually have some of our information on the chronology and the different kings of the Egyptian dynasties, because they did record it themselves several different times, and then some of the ways that we are able to determine things as we compare these different lists. So the Abydos King List is one of these. It dates from the cartouches of Menes or Narmer up until that of Seti I's father, who's Ramesses I. The temple is also known for graffiti that it has in it, Phoenician and Aramaic specifically, but also something called the helicopter hieroglyphs. So we have an ancient alien connection that we're going to debunk today on the channel, because it's not true. So I'm gonna scroll to the picture I have of this. So I had a whole bunch of boats which I've not even touched on, but yes, the helicopter hieroglyphs. Just give me a second. This is going to do something weird with the computer game, but I'm just adjusting it how you can see it here. 13%. Perfection. So I'm just going to do this, and then we're going to get into the hieroglyph. Let me know if you can see the hieroglyph that I'm talking about. Or sorry, the helicopter bit that I'm talking about here. Wait, aren't you gonna build a landing pad for the UFOs in the next mission? No. I love this. It's just... Oh, apparently I've run out of money. Oops. I can see it. It looked like an Apache military helicopter. Yes. Great. So I need to stop importing. I'm going to stop importing bricks because that's going to be my main expense. Is there anything else that I can export? Nah. I'll just leave it and I'll just let my treasury rebuild slowly. Maybe I'll just stop. Yeah. Where's this money coming from that I'm... Okay. Going back in the other direction. Okay, so our Apache helicopter. These, these helicopters are, or it's quote-unquote helicopter, is carved over an arch at the Temple of Seti at Abydos, and there's people that think it's a modern technology. But actually, it's an example of reuse of stone being carved for different purposes over time. So the initial carving of this was made during the building of the temple in the reign of Seti I, and what was carved into it was an inscription that said, "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." Later, this carving was filled in with plaster and reshaped during the reign of Seti's son, Ramesses II, with the type, and the recarving of it changed the meaning of the sentence to mean, "He who protects Egypt and overthrows foreign countries." Over time, what's happened here is that the plaster has eroded away. So it leaves both of these inscriptions visible and makes it look like it's a helicopter, because you essentially have 2 overlapping hieroglyphs. So one is the bow hieroglyph of Seti I, and then the other one is the 2 arms. So I actually found a image that shows this to you. So you can see, if you're looking at the images on the screen that I'm showing, where we have, you can see where we have the bow, and then you can see where we have the 2 arms. And then you can see kind of like how they overlap, and then that makes it look like a helicopter. To me, it actually looks more, if I look at that, I mean, I see the helicopter, but the kind of the first thing I think of is, like someone lying down, like a mummy, like lying down, or someone in a sarcophagus. Those are the things that I think of first. Alright. Clearly expanded. Oh, I hate this. I hate when this happens. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna have to reload a save here because, well, let's just, first off, we'll save this as Abydos. And then, ooh. I'm gonna save Abydos. And then we're going to load and see if I have an autosave. Nope, I do not have an autosave history. Yeah, no, I don't have that. Okay, so we're going to accept none. And we're going to empty and empty that. And empty the straw. Which means I'm going to have to do a little house for this bit so that whoever these people are can get this to where it needs to go. This is annoying. I didn't have to do this, but this is my own mistake. So yes, it's not a helicopter, guys. It's just someone doing a really, it's just basically some whiteout. It's an ancient Egyptian whiteout that's rubbed off of an inscription. How did he manage Egypt? also put accept fish so that I can send it to the Pharaoh so that he's not so mad at me. Right facing bug, read right to left. Out of curiosity, you can't see the face of a person. Do you follow the face of animals, insects within reading? I don't know, actually, because I've never had to read hieroglyphs, but I have heard that basically the way that people are facing is the way that you read it. But also, they do up and down, and they do side to side. So, yeah, I'm not sure how to read it, sorry. Class is in session, and I love it. I'm glad that you're enjoying this. Children of the Nile, Immortal Cities. I have played Immortal Cities, Children of the Nile. I did not like it. I just guess it was because I just love this game so much. Just nothing can compare, I guess. I think I also found it a bit slower to play, so I just didn't enjoy it as much. Yeah. Oh, I'll also mention that, so at Abydos, we also have, I know I have debt. I wish these people would stop. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to stop importing clay. I'm going to stop importing anything, and then I'll build up my finances, and then I'll just, because I have plenty of pottery to tide me over, and I'll get some gift bricks when I send things to people, so. Do I have enough fish? Oh, I'm cutting it fine, guys. Cutting it fine. Anyway, so Khasekhemwy, Pharaoh from this mission, does have a building that he built at Abydos. It's known by its Arabic name of Shunet El Zebib, and it's made out of mud brick. Who's surprised? Nobody. I'm also just going to tamper this down so that I can't get too full. It's an enclosure, and I actually saw a great Instagram post about this. People are still excavating at Abydos. They're still making discoveries there. There is an archaeological project based there. I am going to put the website for the archaeological project for Abydos in the description of this stream once it's all finished. But they have the project that works there. The website is called Abydos Archaeology. They have a website. They have an Instagram account, and I saw this amazing Instagram where they were talking about Shunet El Zebib as Khasekhemwy's Mojo Dojo Casa house. And I love that reference. I was laughing when I was reading it because that's pretty much exactly what these are. These enclosures, this one in particular, it has some niches on the outside of it, which you can see in the image that we have in the bottom right of the screen. And these niches imitate palace walls, but essentially this is just an enclosure, and then it's just kind of like semi-empty inside. It has a flat mound in the middle made of limestone rubble that's covered in mud bricks with steps. Seems to be in the middle of the court, but we don't really know anything about that of it. We think it's a funerary enclosure, a place where the king would have been like worshipped and memorialized. Later, this is something that's kind of known as a house of Ka, and we think it's probably a forerunner to later mortuary temples that we then see. So like the Seti temple at Abydos would have been a mortuary temple. This enclosure in particular is of great interest to Egyptologists, and they've been making efforts to preserve it because As I said before, it's made out of mud brick, and it's been heavily damaged over time. There are some sections of it that are in danger of collapse. Besides the fact that there's natural aging because of abandonment, but also apparently there are local hornets that effectively burrow into the mud brick walls and which hollows out the bricks and makes the walls unstable. So that's why they were having to kind of try and do some rescuing and some stabilization of it to preserve it. Yeah. Because there are some architectural similarities between Shunet El Zebib and the Djoser's complex in the Third Dynasty. He's built the step pyramid. That's kind of the next dynasty that we're going to be moving into. We think that there are some people that think that this complex or a forerunner is kind of like the step before they start building up into pyramids. So they've started making these like big enclosures, and then they're going to start building in them. So again, this is like the beginnings of monumental architecture. This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with when they think, and is why people are like, oh, well, the ancient Egyptians couldn't have built the pyramids, is because they don't understand that there was a progression in building techniques and building styles before we get to the pyramids. They didn't just like pop up overnight. They are Kenuff, exactly. Also, the Abydos project, archaeological project, has also discovered at Abydos one of the oldest, wait for it, breweries in the world. It dates from 3100 BCE during the reign of King Narmer, and they think that it would have been specifically used at this site for making beer that was consumed in royal rituals. So, can't remember if you'll play Hatshepsut era and Pharaoh in 30 minutes to museum thefts. So the museum thefts video is recorded and it's premiering at 7 o'clock in a half an hour. So I'm not going to be live streaming that. I'm going to go eat my dinner, which my husband is currently making for me at 7 o'clock. But yeah, we've got 30 minutes left today. 45 months since the festival. Osiris, he's not a happy man. All right, let's appease him with some beer from our royal brewery for our rituals. Ho, 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 ho. Shunet El Zebib, this monument, this enclosure that I was speaking about, is also notable because in 1998, archaeologists stumbled upon an unexcavated structure near to this, or just adjacent to this enclosure. And when they returned, they found a series of unconnected parallel walls. And then in 2000, about 10 years after they initially discovered it, they finished excavating a royal fleet of 14 90-foot-long wooden boats that were buried in the middle of this area in the first dynasty, 2900 BCE. So, yes, they don't just find boats outside of the pyramids, they do find them elsewhere. And I was going to feature pictures of it in this stream, but I wasn't sure about like the copyright from the Abydos archaeological project, so that's not why I put any of their pictures up here. I do try wherever I can to use photos that I have permission to use, so like a lot of the time they come from Wikimedia Commons, because as long as I give them attribution I can use them, or sometimes I get stuff from Canva, but it can be hard with archaeological things because people don't tend to take a lot of pictures of very specific archaeological stuff and then put them up on Canva for me. So, no, more Pharaoh. Guys, we're gonna play again. Like, this is just today, but in 2 weeks' time, on Friday, when my next video premieres, we'll do the next level, and we'll be back with information about Vedette. I'm gonna have to play that level. It's, yeah, gonna have to test that one out first because I imagine it's going to be more difficult than I want it to be. Oh, great. 16 months. Okay. So this means that I need to level up these houses and import. I'm gonna just do archery because I can. I don't know what side of the Nile these guys are gonna show up on. I'm having like paralyzing indecision now. Well, you know what? I'm over here. So let's do recruiter here. And we'll start off with a fort of archers. Oh no, I'm almost out of money again, guys. I'm not normally in debt when I play this game. I'm just not really giving it my full attention because I'm distracted. Okay. Let's see. Trade route to import. Trade export. Import export. I can't export that. Fish. Alright, let's export some fish. We're over 400. That'll be fine. So I'm exporting, exportable. I just think I need to have more beer. I just need more beer. It's the solution to everything, isn't it? More beer. Alright. Alright. Let's get some barley farms, and then we'll get some beer. And then we'll sell the beer. And that'll make my life mildly easier. Oh, too few people working. No. Well, you know, it'll be fine. I can hear my cat screaming for her dinner. Alright, so you're also going to accept here. Okay. This is going to be... Cat's back. I'm sure that I'm going to get conquered here. I'm probably going to get absolutely curb stomped by these Nubians, but whatever. I didn't say that I was going to play well. We're just playing for fun. Matt asks, what was the first form, if ever, of standardized currency in ancient Egypt? So the first coin minted in Egypt was something called a gold stater during the reign of Pharaoh Teos of the 30th dynasty in around 300 something BCE, just before the Ptolemies came in with their currency. Essentially, the short version of this. So I talked about currency in ancient Egypt and their economy in my last stream on Timna. So you can go back and you watch that for a much more thorough, longer explanation. But essentially, they did bartering for the vast majority of their civilization, but that didn't mean that they had like no system. They had an entire system that they created for measuring the value of items. So this used basically standardized weights and stuff like that, and standardized weights and volumes to determine the value of something. So that's actually where the deben in our treasury comes from in this game. Deben was a form of measuring weight for assigning value when you were bartering or trading in ancient Egypt. Vaverka is late. I'm sorry, but you can watch the rest of the stream. It's going to be available after after tonight. It will still be available to you. I'm just going to import some sneaky wood, because if these Nubians are coming by sea, I am screwed if I don't have a boat. So I'm just going to import 100 of these, and then I'm going to import it here so that I can have some more ships. I don't think this is going to help particularly, but whatever. Right. Next Pharaoh in 14 days or next week. Next Pharaoh will be basically in 14 days. So what I am trying to do is streaming before the premiere of my videos on my channel. So I release videos every other week, every 2 weeks on Fridays. So that's when I'm going to be streaming. I might stream outside of those times sometimes if I find I have like a free weekend and I've got the time and the energy to do it. But for now, that's kind of the schedule I'm going to stick to. Do we have any records of recipes they use for things like beer and bread? I don't know. I suspect the answer is yes. Bread recipe. And I think actually when I was looking at the Abydos archaeology page, they were talking about when they found this brewery, they then went to go recreate the beer itself. If you Google it, there's lots of people with different recipes. Real Egyptian bread recipe from 1950 BCE. So I think the problem with a lot of these recipes is that we don't have the exact same kind of materials, I guess, that they, or sorry, not like crops. So Egyptian bread was made from emmer wheat, which is more difficult to turn into flour. So we probably don't have a lot of emmer flour, or it's not easily available. So like a lot of the things that they probably would have used is not easy for us to find a lot of the time. In addition to this, obviously different recipes changed over time. When I was initially taught about like the bread and stuff like that that ancient Egyptians had, my professors would talk about how it was not bread like how we think of it. It was much, much more calorie dense than what we have. So it like, here, let's check. Am I being invaded? Oh, I'm being invaded by boat, so I'm screwed. Oh well. I don't think that I'm about to be invaded, and I don't think it's going to go very well. Anyway, Nubian army. Yeah, look, ships, they're coming. They're gonna destroy all my boats. They're probably gonna land somewhere and curb stomp a bunch of people. Oh well. No, and trade's gonna go down the toilet. Oh no. Oh no. I don't know why these guys are having such a hard time finding workers. Yeah, see? The Nubian Empire has landed. Where? Where? Foreign army invades. Yep, we're screwed. Oh well. I failed this mission. Oopsie dipsy. Oh look, hey, one of my boats is ready. Oh, the police officers also do fight too close to enemy troops. Yeah, they're just gonna basically ruin this half of my settlement. That's fun. Oh no. I suppose this is period accurate, because stuff like this would happen, and in history you can't just load your previous save if you do a bad job. Yeah. I suppose I could do, let's do a transport wharf. And then I'll take my archers over and they can kill all those Nubians if that boat is ready. Let's see if that happens. The Siam Cat. Hi, how's it going? New to the channel. This is my first live. Hi! Welcome to the channel. My name's Rachel. I'm an archaeologist. I like to talk about archaeology things, especially ancient Egypt. It's my fave. Chat rate. Views 21. Okay. Stream's not doing too bad. We only have 15 minutes left though, guys, so I don't know if I can save this by the time we finish. Oh, these shipwrights, man, they driving me nuts. They always focus on the... What is my camera doing? They always focus on redoing the less important boats before they do the important boats. So like right now, I need them to make warships, and they're making fishing boats. It's really unhelpful. But this boat just did one of the other boats, so that's good. Where is these? Ah! The mouse is doing weird things. These Nubians are just absolutely trashing this place. Alright. But they can't trash it until I've got my transport boat ready. Come on, transport boat. No! Oh, they killed my thing. Oh. Well, I guess I just have to abandon that side of my... Yeah. Basically, this side of my entire settlement is screwed. Everyone's abandoning me. This is not a good omen to leave things on, guys. Everyone's running away. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I've definitely screwed up this level 100%. Oh, something smells really good. My dinner smells really good, guys. Oh, and look at all these people, they're just leaving. I've actually never had played this before in the game because I've always just reset the level. So it's very sad to see how badly things are going for all my people. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry I did such a bad job. I'm sorry that the Nubians are wrecking the whole town. It's my bad. I did a bad job. With any luck, they'll go over to destroy my farms, and then they'll just... Oh, they left. Okay. Well, that's good, I guess. Oh, I've screwed this up so badly. Oh, everyone's gonna be so mad at me. Oh, well. I'm not gonna reload this because I can't be bothered. This part of town's doing good, so that's fine. That's all that matters. This is the part of town that we care about, guys. Oh, and everyone's leaving from here too.
I can't live on what they pay me here.
Ugh. 43? Oh my goodness. It's ridiculous. So basically, I don't pay people enough and I don't protect them. I'm a really bad ruler, guys. You don't want me... Oh no, the Nubians are over here. Oh man. That's annoying. I hope that the Nile floods and they die. Because that does happen sometimes in this game. They get stuck on this bit and then they drown when the Nile floods. So sometimes you can rely on that. Oh, they're coming back. Maybe I can get my ship to come. Right. Let's see if the ship will attack these guys. poor people. Did such a garbage job of the city. I didn't know that they could drown. Yes, they can. Thanks. I first found your channel through the new Netflix documentary. I was looking for some reacts, but I found it interesting watching. Thank you. I'm glad that you have found it interesting enough to stay and to come to the stream. I very much appreciate that. I hope I've kept it at least somewhat interesting for you. I do try to be interesting. I am aware that it really bugs me when people think history is boring because the way that they've been taught about history is boring. So I do try to kind of keep things interesting, but I understand that if sometimes people just find it boring regardless. But yes, I also realize, you know, not everybody wants to read a grey literature report that has very stuffy writing. So I try to keep my stuff short and snappy and relevant as I can. Joaquin found me via Kaylee. That's great. I love Kaylee. She's so nice and sweet, and she's a great person. And yeah, I look forward to doing our collab eventually when both of us have time, because I work, she is very busy with her YouTube channel, so we're gonna do it eventually. The documentary was quote-unquote interesting. Your reaction was perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, and my warship's gone. Well, yeah, we're screwed. All this poor part of town. Oh, everything's just going to crap. People are indifferent to me. I mean, I hope that's not the case in real life. I think most people like me or find me interesting. Right, well, we're gonna just wrap things up. So, let's just... New game. Let's just go back to the family registry and the main menu here, and we can look at this really nice throne temple room that we have, which I actually haven't even talked about this. I love this piece of artwork. I love the artwork in this game. One of the things that I love about it is the color. I have talked about this before. Ancient Egypt, very colorful place. You know, a lot of the painting has worn off in the time, but like if you've been to Egypt, and I do have pictures, and you go to some of the temples, you can still see some of the colors in the parts that haven't been as exposed to the elements. And I just like, oh, I would love to, like, if I was a billionaire, I would love to just like invest in building an ancient Egyptian temple, and then like kind of like trying to do experimental archaeology, like recreating how it would have looked. I don't think you'd be allowed to do that at the modern temples because, you know, we want to try and preserve them as is, but it would be so cool to be able to kind of just like do a recreation of that, or maybe even doing something in like virtual reality. You know, the possibilities are endless with the kind of technology we have available to us nowadays. I'm glad that Siam Cat loves history. I love too. You're expressing yourself just fine. We're gonna wrap things up, so stick around for the premiere of my video talking about the British Museum thefts. I think I've added an interesting perspective to it. I have a little like anecdotal story that I was told by somebody that I knew who worked at the British Museum, which, yes, this story I think is really interesting to hear about in respect to some of the issues surrounding the story. I don't want to give it away. You have to watch the video to find out what the story is. But the video isn't too long. I think it's about roughly 15 minutes, so it's not going to go on for ages like these streams do. Before I go, I do also want to just ask the chat, you know, I've been doing things for quote-unquote free on YouTube for ages, and I would love to be able to do more with you guys, but I have to make money somehow, so I can't leave my 9-to-5 job at the current moment because I really don't make a lot of money off of AdSense or anything. So I'm looking at different ways to kind of try and monetize my channel, but not in a way where I want to start asking people to give me like lots of money. I'm thinking more like $1 or $2 or something. You know, memberships are a thing, and you know, YouTube is trying to push people to have members to their channel. So if you're on the stream, or if you're commenting afterwards, please let me know if I started doing memberships on my channel, would that be something you would be interested in, and or what kind of rewards would you like to have as a member on my channel? Because this is the thing that I'm kind of struggling with, is that, like, you know, I want to still keep a lot of my stuff available for free. I think that that's a really important part of spreading archaeology, is making it available to people. But obviously, if you're a member and you're paying, you want to have something extra to justify it. So if you guys have any ideas or suggestions for things that you would like, or things that would make you want to be a member, or if perhaps it's something that you would never ever consider, please let me know in the chat, because I'm doing some market research, as it were. I will also mention on my Ko-fi page, I do have some like graphics that you can buy for, like, I think I've listed them for like £2. It's kind of like merch. I'm also looking into doing some actual proper merch via Redbubble with some archaeology themed merchandise on it, that I'm going to be talking about and releasing hopefully soon, definitely in time for Christmas. And it's stuff that I've made myself, so that you guys can buy some stuff, because I don't know about you, but when I see archaeology merch a lot of the time on the internet, there's not a lot of it, it's hard to find new things. And a lot of the jokes, like the one in particular that bugs me so much is the one that's like, a career in ruins, or my life in ruins. And that's kind of negative. I get the joke, but I also don't want to promote this like kind of negative idea that you need to sacrifice a lot to be involved in archaeology, or I don't know, I just don't like that association. So I'm trying to kind of come up with ideas for some more positive and funny, like, slogans or memes or something like that I can then put on merch. Keep up the good work. Thanks for the videos. I'm just going to go back into the chat now that I've made my spiel. We'll give it some thought. Twitch. Discussions on new archaeology related papers. Summer weekend archaeological school as a bonus offline. I would love to do like some kind of partnership to do something like that. The difficulty with that is that everyone that watches my stream is very geographically spread, and I don't want you guys to have to pay thousands of pounds at this point in time to come and do a field school. But I would love to be able to like take you guys with me as I went to go dig something and like do a live stream. But finding somewhere to do that is more difficult than I would like it to be. More in-depth videos for members, like academic level discussions, as opposed to videos that appeal to a wider audience without the background. More I dig it type stuff. I thought the same, Natural. I dig it. What? Okay, Matt, when you say I dig it, what do you mean? Do you mean like merchandise? Or do you mean like this is what I've dug? Give me some idea of what you're talking about, because I will do something with it. Yeah, more in-depth videos for members. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Like, so I kind of have, you know, the brief overview on the channel, but the excavation video is in the membership area. So that's a good idea, because that's kind of what I've done. I could do something similar to what I did for the British Museum, as I mentioned the British Museum story briefly in Archaeology News, but excavating the story is like the full story. It's like the 15-minute video where I go over the whole thing. So that's a good idea. Merch and positive. I dig it. More positive than my life in ruins. Yes, very true. The ones that I've come up with so far are just a trowel and archaeologist underneath it, and then a bunch of Greek column capitals and capitalist underneath it, which it's kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek. I also have one that's called Beaker Bay. So it's a beaker. It's a type of prehistoric vessel that's really popular in Europe, and very stylistic. It's very easy to recognize. I have like 3 or 4 other ideas, and I have some Christmas ideas. So I've got one that I really want to use for like Christmas cards. So I'm really hoping that people like that when I come up with it. I'm currently designing it and I'm just finalizing it. But anyways, we're less than a minute out from the premiere of the British Museum thefts. I'm going to wrap things up because I'm hungry and it's been 2 hours. So thank you so much, guys, for watching today. Thank you so much for coming on the stream. I very much appreciate you being here. I hope that you've learned something. I hope that you've had a good time watching me absolutely mangle this level. I hope you've had an interesting time learning about how we've debunked some ancient alien theories. And I will speak to you guys on the next stream, in my next video. Don't forget, if you liked this, give it a like. Watch the British Museum video, give it a like, subscribe, share the video if you want. Please help support me so that I can continue growing the channel and doing fun things with it, and maybe getting to a point where I can just spend lots more time doing it. Yes. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday and an excellent weekend, and I'll see you next time. Stay curious. Bye.